You've started the keto or low carb, high fat way of eating, and you're doing great as long as you're on your own kitchen and you can make your buttered coffee and you can go to the fridge and get your eggs and your bacon. But all of a sudden, you have a trip coming up. How on earth are you going to stay on plan when you're either eating out a lot or living out of a hotel or out of a suitcase in a hotel for several days? Well, believe it or not, it can be done with just a little bit of planning. Last year, my entire family went on an extended 10-day vacation where we had several flights and pretty much traveled by plane, train, and automobile. And we did manage to actually stay on plan. And I came back having lost 2 pounds in the process. So I was really pleased with that. So how did we do it? Well, here are a few of the tips and tricks that we use to stay on plan while we're traveling. First of all, it depends on where we're going. It depends on if we're traveling by car or airplane. If you're traveling by car, you may be able to take a small cooler with you, and that's always very, very helpful. It also depends on where we're going or where you're going, and if you have access to a grocery store that's going to be fairly well stocked. I always kind of operate with in mind that I'm not going to have access to stuff, especially the things I really, really, really want, so I tend to take those things with me. So let's say that you're going by plane. What are the essential things that you have to have? Well, I know that if I'm going to a work conference, for example, oftentimes the meals that are served to us, the breakfast and the lunches, are really carby, particularly breakfast. They'd like to do a continental breakfast with bagels and pastries and things like that. So I always take my travel mug, and I love this because it has a valve, and I can simply get coffee. Usually coffee you can get anywhere, a Starbucks or make it in your room. But I always take my travel mug, and I take my Kerrygold. Now, these are little condiment cups. They're 2-ounce cups, and you can buy these at Walmart. This is where I get them. You can buy the really huge ones at Sam's Club, but we get them at Walmart. We buy 2 bags at a time. And I take my Kerrygold, and I take usually 1 for each day that I'm going to be there. And that entire container would go into my coffee in the morning. What I do with it is I put it in here, put it in a smaller Ziploc, and then put the whole thing in a larger Ziploc, and I've never had any problems. And no, Kerrygold does not have to be refrigerated. I could take an entire block, but it gets mushy, so it's kind of nice to have this. So that's what I use, and of course I always take my preferred sweetener, and usually I can get cream or half and half, and if not, the butter is sufficient. You could also do coconut oil the same way. I haven't done that because I'm not entirely sure how well that travels. Sometimes what I do with my coconut oil is I just take the entire plastic container, if I have a plastic, put it in a Ziploc baggie and put it in my luggage, my checked luggage. This will make it through security just fine. And then this is coconut butter. If you like the taste of coconut butter has been just wonderful for me. It's the basis of a lot of fat bombs, and it has really good nutrition in terms of fat ratios. I like to take this with me, and there have been times when coconut butter and buttered coffee has been a breakfast for me. This will sustain me for several hours. I usually, like the butter, I take 1 for every day that I'm going to be gone. Now, if my husband's traveling with me, I take 2 or 3 for every day I'm going to be gone of the Kerrygold. The other thing that I nearly always take with me is bacon. Now, this is pre-cooked bacon. There's 72 slices. It says on the package that it's equal to 4 1-pound packages. This stuff is great. It doesn't have to be refrigerated. It can travel in the car or the airplane. You put it in your checked luggage. Once it's opened, it says to refrigerate, but it doesn't have to be refrigerated. I'm not as comfortable with that as my husband, but he has taken it before, not refrigerated it, and been fine. If you're only traveling alone for a shorter period of time, you can get the smaller packages of bacon if you don't need this much. Another thing that I like to travel with is my pork rinds. You know that I love pork rinds. These have been a meal for me at times too. Make sure you get the ones that don't have anything but pork skins and salt. And these dipped in Kerrygold butter are fantastic. Like I said, I can't tell you the times I've made a meal out of these for lunch or supper in a bind, or I've used them to supplement a meal to get more protein and fat, because they actually are a little higher in protein than fat. So if you like pork rinds, they travel well in carry-on luggage, or they travel just fine in checked luggage too. So I take those. Another thing that works really well for airplanes are nut butters. Now you can use these same condiment cups to put peanut butter in, or almond butter, any kind of butter that you like. I have found these little packages for almond butter, and they're just great to slip in your pocketbook or your carry-on luggage, and this has gotten me through a couple of really long plane trips. The good news is that when you're fully fat adapted, you don't get hungry and you don't need snacks. So you can generally I can go 4, 8, 12 hours without food, but this is great to keep on hand in case you need a little something, or again, to supplement a meal with some fat and protein. So I generally travel with that. These things are fantastic. This is the grass-fed beef stick. This happens to be Nick sticks. A lot of the jerky that we find has less than desirable ingredients in it, but the grass-fed beef sticks, this is all really, really good stuff. As you can see, they're fairly large, and so this dipped in butter to get more fat is great. You can throw it with a side salad, which you can get at just about anywhere, and it gives you some fat and protein. It is higher in the protein ratios than fat, but it's a great option for traveling. Again, by car, plane, anywhere. Doesn't have to be refrigerated until it's open, and it is designed to be single serving. This is Nick sticks. You can order them online, and it just happens to be my favorite. Any jerky will do, but read the ingredients, because it is difficult in our grocery stores locally to find them that have good stuff. Often they add sugar or high fructose corn syrup or dextrose or maltodextrin. Dextrose and maltodextrin are just other words for sugars. Olives. If you like olives, you can find these handy little packs. They also come like this with a tab that you can open. Olives are really great to add fat. You can put them with salads. You can eat them just as a snack and out of the bag. If you look at them, there's 1.5 grams of fat per serving, but this would give you, 4 or 5 grams of fat if you added those to a salad. And my daughter really loves this as a snack. It's also good to put in the bag for the pool or camps, things like that. Another thing that I like to travel with, my family loves as much as I do, are dill pickles. Again, just make sure the ingredients have no sugar, but they're not a bad dill option, especially if you're eating in a hotel. This is something else that I like to take. It's a canned salmon. Now, it depends on where I'm going, but if I'm going to stay in a hotel that has like a kitchen, I would take something like this that has a pop top, which is nice. Sometimes when you're having a hard time getting your protein and your good fats, this is great to have on hand. Again, you can get a side salad, put some olives with it, or pickles, and it's a really good option when you don't have a lot of options. The same thing is true for oysters. I got this at Aldi's. And then these are sea veggies, and sea veggies are a great way to get iodine. And make sure you just read the ingredients to get the low carb, and they don't have anything undesirable in them. But my daughter really enjoys those. And I forgot to mention this. If you're dairy free, you can take coconut milk with you for cream to put in your coffee. I love these containers because they're cartons. They do travel really well. Again, I tend to put things in Ziploc bags because that way if it's punctured and it leaks, it doesn't ruin my clothing or other items. But Trader Joe's, and I don't have any here to show you, Trader Joe's has this in a heavy cream. And so it's just, this is coconut milk, and it's a really good brand of coconut milk. But Trader Joe's has it in heavy cream. It is shelf stable. It doesn't have to be refrigerated until it's open. So if you're traveling somewhere that you would have access to a cooler or something, or a refrigerator, it's great if you can't get out to buy cream for your coffee. So it's a really, really good option for traveling. Another thing, I've mentioned salads a couple of times. Sometimes when you're traveling, the only salad dressings that are available are commercial salad dressings that have often soybean oil, canola oil, food starches, undesirable things that most of us try to avoid. If you're not picky and you do eat it from time to time like I do, then you can simply eat with us in the restaurant or what's available. But you can also take these little guys. This are individual pods of olive oil and red wine vinegar, and they're just perfect. They're not very big, but they're just perfect for salads when you're traveling. You can even have these in your purse for when you're going into restaurants. So that's a really good option. Okay. Nuts. These are macadamia nuts, and a lot of us don't do nuts because they do have carbs. 1 ounce is a serving, and there are 4 carbohydrates in that. So what I've learned is that one of those condiment cups will hold just about 1 ounce if you weigh it, and you'll see that if you weigh it. So if I fill one of these, I've got a serving. often I'll fill them just to keep myself on track in terms of portion or serving size. We have a small dog who, thinks that somebody walking by is going to take us all. So the macadamia nuts have really good fat ratios, more so than almonds and pecans, but almonds and pecans are not bad options, but I generally do travel. I would probably stick this in my checked luggage, although I might put a few of the macadamia nuts in this in my carry-on if I was going on a very long trip. But nuts make a great option, again, if you kind of watch your ratios. And then when we went on our trip, our long extended trip last year, one of the things I did was I wasn't sure what to expect in terms of shopping or the availability of foods. So I made up some cereals, and this is a chocolate hazelnut flavored, and it's wonderful. I put it in my food saver and Ziplocked it and put it in the freezer. And I've been keeping them in the freezer. It was perfect for us. We had some in our checked luggage, we had some in our carry-on, no problems getting through security. You don't want to try to take this through security, but no problems getting this through. We'd be somewhere, we just rip it open and have a great snack. This actually became a meal for us. This with some buttered coffee was a great meal. You can, for our kids who could have some milk, we could actually make a cereal with it if you wanted to. We ate it pretty much like granola. And I made a couple flavors. This is a chocolate hazelnut. One was a strawberry flavor. The recipe is by Maria Emmerich at Mind Body Health, and I'll link to that in the description on this video, but it was really great. I also had made some frozen biscuits that we really enjoyed, and again, or not frozen, I made the biscuits, put them in my foods sealer, and then froze them. The morning we left for our trip, I pulled them out of the freezer, and that way they lasted a little bit longer. Whenever we got to where we were going, I could refreeze them, and we use those for breakfast quite a bit as well. So that was a biscuit recipe, and I can link to that if you're interested. The important thing about when you're traveling is simply to think through your options in advance and not let yourself get caught off guard. Again, because I'm ketogenic, I tend not to get hungry, so I have time to plan. I've been in places where I've stopped in grocery stores and gone into the deli and gotten meats, gotten cheese sticks. That's what I often do when I stop in an area where we're going to be and I get to a grocery store. I'll buy cheese sticks. I'll go then I'll get deli meat. I'll make sure I get a good quality deli meat. That doesn't have fillers. I'll get cream if I haven't taken the shelf-stable cream with me. Sometimes I get butter depending on where I am. Usually I've taken mine with me and don't need it. I might buy pork rinds if I haven't traveled with those, just because I like to try different flavors of pork rinds. But there's several options that you can get once you kind of get used to it. Also, as far as restaurants, having a burger is not a bad idea. Salads, grilled chicken. The hard part is getting enough fats. I'm kind of leery of butter in restaurants because oftentimes it's margarine, it isn't pure butter. So I don't always ask for it. Often I just take my own butter. Or I'll use cream, I'll use other things. One of the things to be careful of in restaurants is sauces. Oftentimes there's flour, which is a hidden carb, or sugars in the sauces. So I usually ask for those on the side, and I can generally taste it to see if it's going to be sweet or carby, or I just don't ask for them at all. Sometimes when we go on vacation, people make a conscious decision to go off plan. We have not done that because one of the things that we find is when we go off plan, we feel bad. I'll wake up with achy joints, or you get those blood sugar crashes and you get grumpy. And so honestly, now that if you've been keto adapted for a long time, and for us it's been 2 years, those things don't taste good anymore. And so if I go off plan, I'm going to feel bad. I'm going to physically, and I'm going to feel bad psychologically because I know I've done that damage to my body. So planning ahead really makes us have a better vacation, a far better experience. The more you do it, the easier it becomes. But do think ahead and plan. And I'd love to hear in the comments some of the tips that you use when you travel for business or for pleasure. Happy travels.